The Christmas tree. It's hard to imagine the holidays without one. On this episode of New England Legends, we're going to explore the very first indoor decorated Christmas tree in our region and learn that its roots go all the way back to the very founding of our country.
Legends, myths, folklore. New England is a land of history and mystery. From our shorelines to our mountains and everywhere in between, tales of the strange, the supernatural, and the bizarre have always been part of life here. Are these just stories heard around the campfire, or is there some truth to these tales? Let's find out as we explore these New England legends.
Christmas time is special. You could even say magical. But there was a time when the holiday was outlawed in New England. The Puritans who first settled here banned it altogether. They called the practice satanical, and you'd be fined if you were caught practicing any sort of Christmas merriment. It wasn't until Charles Dickens came to Boston and brought his incredible story, A Christmas Carol, that the idea of this holiday really took a foothold in both New England and America.
And oh, how times have changed since then. We love Christmas now. And more than that, we love to show off just how much we love it. You'll find lights and decorations and celebration of the holiday season from November to January in every city, town, and hamlet. Shoot, this past year I saw decorations up in a few stores before Halloween. Still, if decorating for the holidays was an Olympic sport, New England would be the gold medalist for sure. But New England's first decoration, the very first Christmas tree to be put up here, has its roots that go all the way back to the very founding of our country. Our story begins in a quaint town in southern Vermont, where a monument marks a significant turning point in the history of the Revolutionary War.
April 19th, 1775 was actually the date of the beginning of our struggle for independence from Great Britain. And by December of 1776, King George had pretty much had enough of the behavior of his colonies, and he wanted some definitive action. Enter General John Burgoyne with his three-point plan of attack to separate the head from the body of this upstart birth of a new nation. Now, John Stark, the hero of Bunker Hill, was approached to come out of his self-imposed retirement and help out at Bennington. So he and Colonel Seth Warner meet right down at the Catamount Tavern to discuss plans of engagement.
General John Stark of Live Free or Die fame led 2,000 men into battle against British and German forces on August 16, 1777, on a field in nearby Wallamsack, New York, about 10 miles from Bennington. The rebels defeated a detachment of British troops and their German allies. And while the victory at the Battle of Bennington helped energize support for American independence, the aftermath of that day left German and British forces with over 200 dead and 700 captured.
Now, of those 700 men that were captured, one was Hendrick Roddemore. And it was not an easy time for POWs, to be sure. However, for some of the Brunswickers, a number of Brunswickers and Hessians, there was an offer made that if they put down their arms and refused to raise arms against the country for the remainder of the war, they could begin a new life here in America. Now, one need to only look down the Hudson Valley corridor and the corridor from Connecticut to Boston to see the influence of these early settlers in names of communities, villages, businesses, etc. Now, what has the summary of an American Revolutionary War battle have to do with Christmas? Recall Hendrick Roddemore.
This is the spot in modern-day Windsor Locks, Connecticut, where Hendrick Roddemore once lived in a little shack on Samuel Denslow's farm. Now, it wasn't a bad place to wait out the war. Denslow treated him well enough. But when December came, he found himself missing his family and friends. Think about it. He's thousands of miles from home. He has no idea where his fellow soldiers ended up. He's looking for some kind of comfort. So he does something he used to do back home in Germany.
He cuts down a small evergreen tree. He drags it inside the cabin and decorates the tree with ribbons, fabric, and anything else he can find. Sam Denslow sees the tree, shrugs his shoulders, and figures this must be some strange foreign custom. And he's not wrong, but still, the idea seems a little absurd here in Connecticut. Trees belong outside. But for Roddemore, it's a piece of home right here in the New World. This odd winter tradition, carried out by one of America's earliest prisoners of war, would turn into the first decorated Christmas tree in New England.
So how do we know that this spot in Windsor Locks is the exact site of New England's first indoor decorated Christmas tree? The short answer is, we don't. We do know it's pretty darn close to the exact point where Hendrick Roddemore once lived in a little cabin on Samuel Denslow's farm, because that was left behind in historical texts. But there's nothing that says he actually put a tree up here in 1777. Our only source is a 1955 Hartford Courant newspaper, Christmas Day edition, that quotes an unnamed old-timer as saying, "Hey look, the Hessians used to put up Christmas trees indoors before anybody else. He probably did too." Today, there's a tree, there's that plaque, and there's a story. If there's one thing I've learned in both legends and life, it's that belief makes things real. I, for one, choose to believe. Merry Christmas.